The second I spotted Lisa hauling a margarita machine across my field in high heels, trailed by a DJ, 6 folding tables, and what I swear was a guy in a taco costume, two things hit me like a ton of bricks. First, this woman had officially lost her last shred of sanity. Second, she was about to torch an entire federal operation. I hadn't even downed my morning coffee when my phone pinged with a live feed from the drone camera I'd stashed in the oak tree at the edge of my property. The screen showed a real-time invasion, 100 strangers, tents, coolers, barrels of booze, and one sketchy white catering van with no plates. That van wasn't just some random food truck, it belonged to Marco Russo, the very guy my team had been tailing for 18 months. By day, he grilled ribs. By night, he washed dirty money. And now, thanks to Lisa's idea of a chill afternoon, he was setting up shop smack in the middle of my undercover field while I stood there in sweatpants, gripping a rake, watching my career go up in smoke. 3 months ago, I'd moved into this HOA-run suburb to blend in, keep a low profile, and use the property as a base for a sting operation. As a federal agent posing as a freelance cybersecurity consultant, I picked this quiet neighborhood for its golf course, walking trails, and nosy residents who were too busy gossiping to dig into my story. It was perfect until Lisa, the HOA president, showed up at my door Yunin Vy Ted with a clipboard, a fruitcake, and a 14-point critique of my lawn. Apparently, my choice to plant native grasses instead of the HOA-approved Bermuda was a personal affront to her. From that day on, she declared war, and I made the fatal mistake of brushing her off. My property came with a 3-acre field, private, tactical, ideal for surveillance. To me, it was a strategic asset. To Lisa, it was an untapped party venue. She'd been sniffing around the field for weeks, snapping photos and scribbling notes. Last week, she slipped a flyer into my mailbox about a community barbecue social, promising it'd just be a few families and inviting me to observe if I was shy. I shot her a text right away, hard no. This is private land, zoned for agriculture. No parties, not even for your knitting circle. She didn't reply. I should have known her silence meant she was cooking up something wild. That morning, it all clicked. Lisa had ignored every boundary, stormed my field, and turned it into a full-blown circus complete with booze, a DJ, and, worst of all, Marco Russo. He'd been off our radar for weeks, ducking us after a warehouse bust in Arizona. Now here he was, flipping burgers 20 feet from my surveillance shed, all because Lisa couldn't take no for an answer. I jogged toward the madness, trying to keep my cool and not blow my cover. Lisa spotted me and waved like we were old pals. "Jake, isn't this amazing? I knew you'd love it once you saw it." She was decked out in a barbecue boss sash and flamingo-shaped sunglasses. "Lisa," I said, forcing calm, "we talked about this. This is trespassing. There are over 100 people on my land." She scoffed, flipping her hair like I'd insulted her patio decor. "It's not trespassing when it's for the community's sake." She gestured grandly at the open bar and dance floor, where a toddler was twerking to Pitbull. Meanwhile, I clocked Marco locking up his van, as darting around. He didn't recognize me yet, but if he stared too long, he might. I ducked behind a tiki bar, slipped in my earpiece, and whispered to my team, confirming his ID. We weren't ready for a takedown to mini CIVY Lions, but we could gather intel. I snapped photos, logged plates, and recorded snippets. My gut screamed Lisa's catering gig with Marco wasn't random. This was bigger. As the party spiraled, the insanity piled up, a fireworks station run by teens, kids VYing sparklers near dry grass, an open flame by a propane tank, and a karaoke setup butchering Bon Jovi. This wasn't a barbecue, it was a lawsuit waiting to hit the headlines, all on my turf during an active federal op. Lisa popped up again, thrusting a margarita at me. "Here, Jake. Marco makes them strong. Isn't he a treasure?" My blood froze. She wasn't just clueless, she was connected. She'd hooked him up with neighborhood gigs, maybe even laundering HOA cash through his catering front. I handed the drink back and stepped away. My cover was hanging by a thread. If she was in on this, the whole op could collapse. But I couldn't move yet. He had to let her think she was still the queen of her little HOA kingdom. Let her party. Let her dig her own grave. Marco didn't fit the suburban VYB, but there he was, rocking a brisket king apron, spinning ribs like it was a weekend hobby. To the neighbors, he was a grill god. To me, he was a ghost, one of the slickest money launderers on the West Coast, funneling stolen federal funds through catering gigs and fake contracts. We'd chased him for over a year, always one step behind until Lisa and VY led him to her backyard bash on my field. He looked relaxed, chatting up locals and passing out peach-glazed ribs, but I saw the tells. The twitch when someone mentioned permits, the way his thumb never stopped scrolling his phone. He wasn't here for fun, he was working, probably washing thousands through inflated invoices right under everyone's noses. Lisa, oblivious or faking it, flitted around like a pageant queen, now sporting a plastic tiara with tiny spatulas glued to it. She blared announcements about raffles and supporting local vendors like our dear Marco. The fact that she was boosting him publicly set off every alarm in my head. I needed to know how deep she was. I strolled to the food truck line, gave Marco a nod, and asked how long he'd been catering HOA gigs. He squinted, maybe placing me from a dockside glimpse last year, but played it smooth. Oh, here and there, he grinned, piling pork on a bun. Word spreads fast in these suburbs, toss some ribs, and you're royalty. I chuckled and dangled bait. Ever do corporate stuff? Off the books types, big spenders, no paper trail. His eyes flickered. Depends on the client, he said, leaning in. Gotta know who I'm feeding. I handed him a burner card with a fake firm and a tapped line. Call me. We'll talk. He pocketed it and slid me a sandwich. On the house for a guy who gets brisket. The party slid from chaos to anarchy by afternoon, overflowing porta potties, kids pelting each other with core whole bags. A guy passed out in my kale patch. Lisa still pranced around, leading a conga line and belting Sweet Caroline with a goblet-sized drink. I slipped behind Marco's van while he was distracted, cracked the door, and slid my phone under a crate with the mic app running. Back at my shed, I tuned in, muffled voices, Marco griping about invoices and meat orders not matching. It wasn't courtroom gold yet, but it proved his game was still on. If Lisa was funneling HOA funds to him, this party could be Exhibit A. That night, as sunburned guests staggered off with potato salad, I surveyed the wreckage, trash everywhere, scorched grass, my fence toppled. I'd warned her in writing this wasn't just a party, it was a federal op in jeopardy. Then came a knock. It was Sarah, the architectural committee lady, eyes wide, handing me an envelope. I shouldn't be here, but you need this, she whispered, then bolted. Inside were copies of checks HOA funds to fake companies tied to Marco, signed by Lisa. My pulse raced. She wasn't just a meddling nutcase, was a player, and I had the paper trail to prove it. 3 days later, the HOA meeting was a powder keg. The clubhouse, usually a haze of lemon polish and petty gripes, buzzed with tension. Half the neighborhood showed up some hype to make Lisa's bash an annual thing. Others leave you idea about the mess and underage drinking. Lisa, in a red blazer and a smug grin, kicked things off with a syrupy speech about community spirit, claiming the party was a spontaneous hit that got out of hand. Then she pivoted, pointing at me. Sadly, one resident has blown this out of proportion, she said, loud and clear. Maybe he's just not a team player. I swung my way. I didn't blink. When she finished, I stood. Nice story, Lisa, I said coolly, but I don't play by HOA rules. Gasps rippled. I pulled a flash drive from my pocket. I've got something for the board. Lisa snapped. This isn't on the agenda, but the VYC president waved me on. I plugged in and projected drone footage. The chaos, Marco's van, the fireworks, Lisa in her glory. Then audio, Marco's voice on tape, juggling fake invoices. Finally, the checks, her signature glaring on the screen. The room exploded. Lisa jumped up. This is outrageous. Illegal surveillance. I met her gaze. More legal than laundering HOA cash through a sham caterer. The board froze, then erupted in questions. She stammered, blamed accounting errors, but no one bought it. A guy named Tom flashed an email from Lisa promising Marco exclusive gigs for discretion. A vote booted her from the presidency on the spot. She sat, stunned, as her reign crumbled. Later, Sarah caught me by the coffee pot. You did the impossible. I nodded, but my mind was racing. Marco's audio hinted at another event, a fundraiser, bigger, in 10 days. Lisa wasn't done. She'd lost her title, but not her nerve. It was time to set the trap. Operation Brisket Bait launched fast. We'd let her think she still had the upper hand, hosting her private HOA fundraiser at a foreclosed farmhouse. My team embedded agents as guests, vendors, and staff. I went as Carter Reynolds, a slick real estate consultant. The night was all hay bales and whiskey, Lisa schmoozing like nothing had changed. She smirked at me. "Carter, glad you're here. This is classier than last time." I played along, watching her pitch shady deals to donors. Marco worked the grill, swapping envelopes with select guests. We had it all: bugs, cameras, live feeds. Then it hit. Sirens, SUVs, agents swarming. Marco bolted, but got tackled. Lisa stood frozen, laughing until the cuffs clicked. "You tricked me," she hissed as I dropped the act. The sting nabbed fraud, laundering, and more. Marco flipped, spilling years of dirt. Do law 4 million washed. Lisa's 30-fan tram cut. Texts pro VYing it. She got 5 years, no parole, and the HOA imploded. My field healed. The neighborhood did too slowly, honestly. A mystery envelope later dropped years of Lisa's dirt from an unknown insider. Her empire was dust. And me? I got a call about a book deal me story, the CI of Wiley and Cut. I laughed, but didn't say no. Justice was served, no sauce required.